So this is the handover for the McLouis Lagan. We'll start on the outside of the vehicle first of all. We'll go around the external fixtures and fittings, and then we'll work our way into the inside. On the habitation door, it's a straightforward mechanism, but adjacent to it you have this additional slide plate for locking and securing the vehicle. Using the barrel function key, you push it in, lock it into position, and it stops then this from being forced open. Adjacent to that, you've got the ventilation for the fridge. It's not unusual to feel heat coming off of this if the fridge is working on gas because of the positioning of the exhaust. Down on the back half of the vehicle, you've got the exhaust vent for the water heater. Now it comes with a cover. I always tend to keep the cover on the steering wheel as a reminder to you that you need to reattach it before traveling, like so. But if you're going to use the water heater on gas, this external cover has got to be removed. We'll talk about it later, how that cover and how the water heater works on gas. Above it, you've got your mains cable. Should always plug into the side of the van first of all, and then connect to the side post, the power supply that you're using. So lift the cover off and push the mains lead in to make sure you've got a nice secure connection, and then connect to your side post, and that will give you your main supply into the side of the van. Next along, you've got your garage door. So the previous owners left some equipment in here, including a mains cable and some silver screens. If you remove the mattress, you can also then fold this section up and clip it back against the wall to give you garage space instead. Chemicals and the ladders for the bunk beds are also in there as well, along with some levelling wedges. Underneath the back of the van, you have your wastewater system. In order to drain the system off, you'll need to remove, first of all, the dust cap. Bit of a fiddle, but it will come. And then pull back on the slider with a firm action, and it opens up and allows then the grey water from the shower tray, the bathroom sink, and from the kitchen sink to be drained off in one go. Reattach the dust cap after you've completed that process. So, bike rack. Extend your arms up out of the way. Let the deck fold down. With your individual bikes, strap the hubs in. So press the red tab in on the Fiamma strap. These will slide backwards and forwards as well. Secure the wheel hubs, and then the extension arms come out, and it's a similar action to go around crossbars or seat posts to secure each individual bike. When you don't want to use it anymore, then there are a couple of grey cap strips that come up, and they will enable you then to put it back in. And then I would also then just bring some of the arms down to secure it and stop it from falling off. If you wish, you can take the bike rack off altogether by undoing a couple of dust caps, take the dust caps off, undo the nuts that are behind them, and you can unclip and remove the bike rack from the back. So on the passenger side, you've got, again, another garage locker, and you can obviously attach the straps on this side as well for the opening up for the garage space. Adjacent to that, you've got your toilet cassette. So open up the door first of all. Hopefully the slide is already shut inside, so that when you pull up on the yellow lever, the body of the cassette will come out. On a campsite, you have collection points for these to be emptied into. So extend the neck out, remove the yellow cap completely, and then tip up. And as you're tipping up, press the yellow button in, and that should allow then the waste to come out of the bottom. Previous owners left some toilet chemicals in. So using the measuring cup, up to a capful of chemical, mixed with about 2 litres of water, give it a little swirl round inside before you load it back in, and you're ready to go. The flush water on this one comes from your main fresh water tank. Next along, you've got your gas locker, 2 gas bottles side by side. Simply turn on the gas bottle using the brass nut. So at the moment this one is actually turned on, so we'll turn it off for a couple of seconds and then turn it back on to get your gas supply back through. Go straight into the regulator. There's no additional isolation points that you need to worry about on the outside of the van, and obviously through then to your appliances. If you're changing the gas supply over, you'll need to use this spanner and its left-hand thread. So you do up to undo, you undo to do up in that manner. Further along, you've got your fresh water cap. Just turn the key, push it through, and that then allows the water cap to pop off and your hose pipe straight in. The drain valve for the fresh water tank is inside the van. This panel is a dummy panel. It doesn't access anything at all. Next along, you've got your fuel filler cap, ignition key in, twist, and twist off. And just inside the driver's door on the left-hand side, you've got your bonnet release, like so. Underneath the passenger seat, you have your vehicle toolkit. And underneath the floor carpet, you have your access to your engine battery. We'll show you how to do a jump start when we go under the bonnet in a minute. So in the center of the bonnet, you have your bonnet release, lift up, bonnet stay on the right hand side. Over on the left hand side, you've got your fill point for your screen wash, and then your power steering, brake fluid and radiator waters next to it. Oil filler cap in the center of the engine block, and then in front of it your dipstick. If you need to jump start the vehicle, there's a cap which exposes a paddle on this side for the positive, and then the negative goes onto this bolt at the front here, and that will enable you to then jump start the vehicle if that's required. So it's a manual pull out step. Just behind the E symbol, you've got a little tab, and then depress that, and it allows then the step to come out and lock into position, and it's the reverse to push it away. Stepping into the van, as we come in, we turn around and we go to the 12-volt control panel. So your 12-volt control panel is turned on using the blue button down on the bottom right-hand side. Press on it firmly and you should see these lights come up. Initially, you'll see a few lights displayed. So at the moment, because we're currently plugged into the mains as indicated by the 230 symbol, you can see now that the battery is receiving a charge, and we have approximately half a tank of fresh water. If you press the check button, it will give you a reading for your engine battery instead, and it will also highlight or show up any wastewater there is in the system. R2 is redundant. There is only one single grey water tank. The outside awning light switch is redundant because there is no outside awning light, so it's the upper switch for turning on the 12-volt lights. Any 12-volt sockets that there might be within the van are controlled from the auxiliary switch, and then the water pump I would use on demand. So whenever you want to have a shower, wash up, etc., you would turn the pump on. After you've done that activity, deselect and switch off the pump. When you want to turn the 12-volt system off inside the van, press and hold this button and watch the lights count down. Eventually, when they all go out, that's the entire 12-volt system switched off. So to access the mains RCD switch, you need to take out the kitchen drawer. There's a little dust cap which needs to be unscrewed, and then behind that you have the RCD switch on display. The switch is up at the moment, indicating it's on. You can isolate and turn off the 12-volt switch by bringing it down. Once you've connected to the main supply, obviously turn it on like so. Located at the back of the vertical cabinet, you will find a beige coloured mains switch. This is the isolator switch for the 3-pin sockets that are located above the hob. So we've already turned the gas supply on outside. You will notice when you open up the lower kitchen cupboard, you've got some individual isolator taps. They're labelled as the gas supply to the hob, to the fridge, to the water heater and to the room heating system. In the horizontal position that they are at the moment, they're supplying those individual units. If you had concerns about the gas supply, if someone was testing the gas supply, then they could turn the tap through 90 degrees and that would isolate the gas to that unit. We want to demonstrate and show you how all the gas works, so we'll leave all of those on. When you first change over a gas bottle, or if you haven't used the gas for a while, I'd always recommend that you run the gas off on the hob first of all. Gas match like this, a couple of clicks, and you should find that you get a good continuity of gas supply coming through. Run the gas off on all of the burners, so each one in turn, and then that way when it comes to lighting things like the fridge, for example, they'll respond more efficiently. We'll get down and we'll just do the grill as well. So if you want to drain off the onboard fresh water tank, you'll need to pull the table forward slightly. There's a hatchway at the base of the table, lift that off, and then underneath it you'll see a cylindrical fitting with a tap across it. So at the moment that tap's closed off, obviously because it's holding the water in. If you turn it through 90 degrees, it allows then the water to drain off from the tank. So to utilise the water heater, there's a drain valve located next to it under the kitchen cupboard. It needs to be in that horizontal position. If you're draining the water heater off for storage, then it's brought to the vertical position to allow the content of the water heater to discharge. Refilling, put it back into the horizontal position. Select the water pump switch and then turn on the kitchen taps to the hot water position and allow the water to purge through. If the system were drained down, there would be aeration and spitting and spurting for about 2 minutes whilst it draws through. Earlier on we preheated this one, so that's why you're seeing the steam coming out of the tank. So to heat the water up, you have two choices. You can heat the water up via gas or via electric. For the gas operation, you need to remove the external plastic cover, as we showed you earlier on. You would turn this dial through about 5 to 10 degrees or so, and you'll see a green light come on the right hand side of the display. You may well hear a click or a thump as it engages. If it fails to ignite, you'll see a red light come on the opposite side. Check to make sure that you've removed the cap. Also check to make sure that you've got a good gas supply coming through. It'll take around about 30 to 40 minutes or so to heat up. You can adjust the temperature by increasing or decreasing on the thermostatic dial in the middle. For the electric water heater, you can deselect the gas, you turn on this switch, and it goes from an off position to an on position onto there. All right, and that will start to heat the water up on electric. Again, it's the same kind of interval period of time, around about 30 to 40 minutes. So you have a three-way fridge fitted inside the van. In order for the fridge to operate on mains, you will need first of all to turn this switch on underneath the kitchen sink. It then corresponds with a green switch, which is here. So when that one's turned on, if you plug it onto the mains, it should illuminate. Whether you're using the fridge on mains or gas, you need to make sure that the van is as near level. So using the spirit level, which is on top of the countertop, should give you some indication. If it's bubbles generally centered within those lines in both directions, then it should be sufficiently good for the fridge operation. Although you've got multiple power sources on this, you must never try and use more than one at a time. So if we're going to operate the fridge on gas instead of mains, which we might do if we were wild camping, then you use the 12-volt igniter, you turn onto the highest flame possible, and as soon as it establishes the gas, the igniter ceases to flash. Hold the thermocouple switch in for a couple of seconds and then slowly let it release. And as long as that doesn't start flashing again, then you have that gas continuity. The bigger the flame, the colder the fridge. Deselect and switch off the gas when you are traveling. Disengage your main supply, and for the 12-volt to operate, you put it into the battery mode at this end. When the ignition is on and the engine is running, there is a 12-volt feed coming through from the cab supply. All it will do is maintain the fridge temperature that you've already chilled it to. To operate the gas fire, turn the igniter top around to the full position, push and hold down for a couple of seconds. You'll hear a succession of clicks. If you hold your head about 45 degrees to the slot, which is just here, you'll see the flame within the flame chamber indicating that it's lit. You also may hear a bit of a whoosh or a roar as it takes hold. That will work as a conventional heater, all right, convecting the heat around the inside of the van. You have, though, the option of using a circulation fan. So this is powered by the 12-volt supply. If we move the switch towards the left-hand side, the shark fin, as I call it, all right, that enables you to increase or decrease the fan speed. Alternatively, there's an ambient control on the A side, and the fan will work in conjunction with the heater thermostat, and the fan will cut in and cut out and give you a more stable supply. Warmer weather, you can leave the gas fire switched off. There's nothing stopping you just using the fan on its own, just to improve the air circulation inside the van. So your toilet bowl is a swivel bowl cassette made by Thetford. It's designed to physically move around. To operate the toilet, lift up the seat, and there's a slider which comes forward, which opens up the main wastegate. Let your wastewater go straight through, and then to flush the toilet, press the blue button. Rinse water with the pump on will come directly from the onboard fresh water tank around for as long as you hold your button, finger on the blue button. When the cassette is approaching full, you'll get an indicator light coming on here telling you that it's time to empty the cassette. All of your windows operate the same. So you have latches on each section, push out on the window. They've got ratchets on the struts, so they'll lock out into a certain position, push it beyond the ratchet in order to get the window to close again, like so. You can lock them in a ventilated position to allow a little bit of airflow through, perhaps if you're storing the van, but whenever you're traveling, they need to be in on the innermost setting to stop the windows from being blown open. So there are two roof lights in the top of the van. They operate in different ways. When you're traveling, they must be closed. Pushing on the button, and then that allows then the roof light to open up and push through to various locations. There's a blind or a fly screen for use by day or by night. And then just simply pull the lever back towards you and make sure that it rides through and goes past the locking cap to secure it into position. The rear roof light above the bunk beds at the back is just a simple twist action. So unscrew it and it allows then the roof light to open up to approximately 45 degrees. The fly net is in a fixed position. You can edit that bit out.
That's good.
So there's a 12-volt socket inside the cabinet near the front of the vehicle, which is the 12-volt supply to the television. The TV itself is only set up to run as a DVD player. You would need to put on a separate aerial, be it a freestanding type, in order to get it to function in that way. The Avtech TVs, typically if the 12-volt supply is there, you'll get a standby light to come on, but there is an isolator switch underneath the television, which will also need to be engaged if you want to get to that stage. Using the handset, press the red button, and when it finds, you should see this light change to a green light, and you'll get your visual display come up. In DVD mode, slide your DVD into the slot, and off you go. You have blinds and fly screens on the main windows in the cabins area. Pull down for your fly screen and lock them into the trap, and then squeeze both triggers together simultaneously, and you can draw it back up the other way for your nighttime blind. To separate, pull the little takes back in, and then let the main blind drop down. Drop down bed to the front. Personally, because of the way that it's set up, I would probably be inclined to actually travel with the bed down. Although you've got the option to push the bed section up for stationary use, travel with the bed down. It gives you more storage. You can also use the cargo net not only to keep the kids into the bed, but also use that to stop anything from sliding forward. they're strapped in and held in position on two hooks either side of the unit. So we move into the cab of the vehicle. As I mentioned before, you've got this cover for the water heater. If you are going to use the water heater on gas, remember to take this off. I've always tended to keep mine on the dashboard as a reminder to me that it's got to go back onto the side of the vehicle as part of your departure checks before you leave. The rest of the vehicle controls are fairly straightforward. Over on the left hand side, you've got your light controls for your dipped and main beam. You've got below that a simple cruise control function which turns on and off from there, and then your wiper controls and your trip computer are into there. There's partial headlamp beam adjustment on these controls here. If you press the mode button and use the up and down arrows, it'll take you through a range of options for adjusting the trip computer, for example. Over on the driver's door, you've got your electric mirror and electric window adjustments. Turn the toggle into the direction of the mirror that you want to adjust, and then use the toggle buttons to move the mirror around. All four mirrors are adjustable. To the center of the dash, you've got your gear lever and ventilation controls. Reverse on these vehicles, up on the center column, push the lever away from you and up and forward to engage your reverse. Otherwise, the rest of the gears are straightforward. You have a heated rear mirror function on here, so the side wing mirrors, when this is depressed and illuminated, will demist. Single rear fog light to the back. The ability to lock the cab doors, not the habitation door, just there. ASR function is a form of anti-skid control and anti-slip control. It's always turned on, so that if you accelerate on a loose surface, it provides engine braking, it stops the wheels from slipping. However, if you were driving onto slippery grass or in icy conditions, you might want to switch it off so that you had direct throttle to wheel control. The ventilation controls are above. You have the speed of the fan being controlled on the bottom half of the semicircle and the temperature control to the top. If you're wanting to use the air conditioning function, turn it away from the open vent to the closed vent. Press this switch here, it will illuminate and it will give you your air conditioning. And then you have your directional controls for your windscreen and feet, face and feet, and face vents accordingly. There's a clipboard that comes up out of the dashboard at the front. No, it doesn't, because it's a rigid one. So we'll cut that bit away.
Okay, we'll go to, let's cut straight down to here and just talk about power takeoff.
Yeah.
Go.
So there are a choice of power takeoff switches or controls down here. The cigarette lighter has an unregulated 12 volt supply, which means if you put in lighter weight lithium systems, they may burn out if you're traveling for a prolonged distance. So they put a restricted 12 volt socket into there. You can remove what's used as an ashtray to become a cup holder. And you have two glove boxes, one to the top. There's a slider on the back of this one, purely and simply that if you wanted to have the air conditioning on in the cab, it would then feed into this space as well to create a kind of mini fridge. And then you have a traditional glove box at your knees on the left-hand side. Central glove box is lockable using the ignition key and can be pulled down like so, but just be careful with how much weight you put into these. They're not as strong as they actually look. Radio controls, with the ignition on, the radio should work. There's an on-off button on the top left-hand side, and then you can turn it on and tune in. Underneath the flap on the right-hand side, you've got a USB and auxiliary input points. So on different generations of Peugeot Boxer and Fiat Ducato, you have this clipboard function. On the early models, they made this function actually tip up. So if you pulled up on this whole section, the whole board came up. When they started introducing the airbags, the passenger airbags specifically to this generation, there was a problem with this design. So anyone that's got a passenger airbag, this section here on this generation does not open. So you only have the clipboard function and not the actual rise and tilt. So don't try and force it up. So on the side of the driver's seat there is an isolation switch which turns off and separates the battery supply. I would imagine that if you travel around with this disconnected, there's no longer a feed between the engine battery and the leisure battery for charging. So always make sure that it's set into position. Beneath the driver's seat, you have your battery charger as well as the leisure battery. I make no apologies for the design. You have to take the seat out in order to get access to the leisure battery. So in the driver's door pocket, because there's no spare wheel fitted, you have the reflation kit. Lift the whole thing out. Contained within it, you have some aerosol gunge and a compressor pump. Attach it onto the tyre, press the relevant buttons, and it will start to fill up the tyre with gunge and seal it off for continuous use. So both driver and passenger seat have swivel seat adjustments. There are red tabs on the sides of the seats. Push them away and it will enable you to turn the seats around. Make sure that they're locked into the forward position like so. On the passenger seat and driver's seat you have armrest adjustment as well, so there's wheels into the armrests. They're positioned so that you can set the armrests into the required locations. However, it's only on the driver's seat do you have height adjustment. So there are two paddles above the handbrake. When you pull out on them, it enables then the seat to be raised in both directions and then obviously depressed. Use your body weight in order to get the seat back into its back position, and then a conventional backrest adjustment on the centre part. So that concludes the handover for your McLouis Lagan. Sincerely hope that you enjoy your van and it gives you lots of smiles and lots of miles. If you have any questions, if there's anything you're not sure about, just pick up the phone, send us an email, and we're here to help. On behalf of Highland Camper Vans, enjoy your van. Take care.